All right, I'm talking about brutal shit in here, and I'm not giving a comforting disclaimer with this anymore. So if you get offended or scared by this, then you need to be, because this is Pluto, and Pluto bites you and it stings you, so you actually hear the message loud and clear. All right. Scorpio is originally coming from the 8th house, and this house is about crises, and these crises hit you out of nowhere because the universe tried to warn you about it. Like there was an issue, and the universe tried to warn you about it in smaller ways, but you were too ignorant to listen. So now it has to be a big catastrophe to get your attention. And this house is where other people hold power over you, and they're able to control you due to their resources, and because they have a secret grip over you. Because they have developed strength and strategy in areas that you are turning a blind eye to because you're trying to pretend that they're not real because they're too scary for you. So this house is also about taxes. It's the ugly side of relationships. It's the gross part of sex and intimacy that makes you want to throw up and die. The 8th house is your worst insecurities. And these insecurities are so touchy that you can't even look at them. These are severe psychological issues in this house. This is where these kind of issues fester. And they manifest as stubborn behavioral disorders. Because remember that the 8th house is the house of Mars. And so like the 8th house is both psychology, like both the cognitive aspect and the behavioral aspect. But 8th house issues usually manifest as behavioral action-oriented disorders that people develop. It's not something that's just completely just like thought or emotion-based. Like these are the ones that actually erupt and become like full-blown personality disorders at times. The 8th house is also genetic mutations and diseases that have a sudden onset. Like they were brewing the entire time, but they were so deeply repressed and you were in such denial about it that you couldn't even tell until it just finally erupts. And then there's like, suddenly you have some kind of big disease or you get into like some big accident or something. The 8th house is also about murder, death, surgery, slavery, being in a trance, being mind controlled, situations where you got in way too deep and now you need somebody else to pull you out of it. And if you do it again, God's just going to kill you for it because you're just being stupid at this point. The 8th house anatomically, no, I'm wording that wrong. Scorpio energy anatomically rules over the colon, the genitals, and your asshole. Both 8th house and Scorpio energy rule over this area. It rules over shit or defecation. This is the house where you're going to get into situations that show you that you ain't shit and that you're not exempt from the dark side of life just because you think that you're special. All right, so here's the rundown of the planets that are influencing Scorpio. Mars rules Scorpio. Uranus is exalted in Scorpio. Venus falls in Scorpio, and the moon is debilitated in Scorpio, meaning its hands are tied and it can't function or even see itself. So like when a planet, I keep realizing all kinds of different things about what it means for planets to be in like rulership or like domicile and exalted and fall and shit. When a planet is in detriment, meaning it's the opposite sign of what that planet is naturally exalted in, because the moon is exalted in Taurus, and Taurus is the opposite of Scorpio. A detriment planet is like, it's so out of its depths in this kind of energy that it doesn't even know that it's there. Like it's its own enemy. Okay, so Mars is at home in Scorpio because Scorpio is naturally a fighter. Its primal instinct is to destroy, defeat, fuck, kill. This is a very karmic sign, and most Scorpios live their entire life in survival mode, and they're always on the lookout for enemies, and this is because they see themselves as an enemy. But sometimes they're too proud to admit it. So they're going to project that outwards. And then they're going to think that everyone else around them is their enemy. And that everyone else needs to be destroyed. Like this is kind of like the, I'm not saying that all Scorpios have personality disorders, but no, not all of them do. Hold on. Not all of them do, but this is kind of what eighth house issues are like. And personality disorders are basically when you think that you're perfect and that everyone else around you has an issue. Like, you're so in denial about your the way that you actually function on a psychological level that you think that the world is like out to get you. Onto Venus. Venus is falling in Scorpio because of this. Venus is originally about love, beauty, harmony, grace, pleasure. If you've ever been in a relationship with a Scorpio, then you know that they have a beautiful talent for transforming your self-image and making you feel hideous and like you're at war with your own self and the world at large, and that your beauty and privilege can't protect you against being preyed on. And eventually everyone's going to annihilate you, but not them, of course, because they're going to love you no matter what. And they love all your darkest secrets. So that's why that they trap you so that you can never leave them, because they're the only ones who will ever love you. Like, this shit is like, when you realize like the science behind how different zodiac signs think, it just kind of becomes funny, because you realize that they're all basically doing the same thing. It's just the astrology is just playing out the same way through different people, and everyone thinks they're unique. So yeah, this is also kind of like how eighth house synastry works. Basically, Venus in Scorpio sees beauty and they hate it, and they want to transform it and destroy it so that they can finally relate to it. Because remember that Venus is naturally at home in Libra and the 7th house, and these things are about, these signs and houses are about how we relate to other people. So when Venus goes into Scorpio, we can only relate to people who have been destroyed and beaten down and mutated to the point where they're no longer threatening to us. And if somebody is threatening and you have Venus in Scorpio, you are going to either consciously or subconsciously, because it's going to happen, you're going to try to break them down into a shell of themselves so that you can finally feel like you're more beautiful than them. Because remember, Scorpio's at home in Mars, and Mars is about competition and enemies. So Scorpios are always competing. Almost all Scorpios, not all. Most of them are, because a lot of them are operating on their lower vibration. So anyway, Uranus is exalted in Scorpio, and Uranus is a planet of sudden change, revolution, and strikes of genius that change the world. It's also about large social movements that they seem like they would take a long time if only one person was doing it. So this is why Uranus is about massive, like global level social movements of like the increase in intelligence and milestones that humanity makes. It has a lot to do with evolution, like human evolution. So consider this, and consider how Scorpio is naturally a very volatile and action-seeking sign anyway. And so this combination of sign and planet puts Uranus on a sugar high. Like it's like it's in total euphoria. So the moon is debilitated in Scorpio. So Scorpios start out being very, very, very emotionally underdeveloped. If you meet a Scorpio who has emotional insight about themselves, and they operate with emotional dignity and intelligence, they've had to go through many transformations and many crises in order to reach that level of self-awareness, because no Scorpio starts out that way. It's like Scorpios don't even know what emotions are. They don't even know what self-care is. And they think, underdeveloped Scorpios think that only weak people need to be nurtured. And also keep this in mind, whatever you nurture grows. So consider how Pluto rules Scorpio, and Pluto is the smallest planet in the entire solar system. And so like it's the point where Pluto is so small and like far removed that people have tried to say that it's not even a real planet anymore. So you have consider this, and then tie this into how Scorpios handle their emotions. Scorpios are very self-protective and secretive about their emotions. And they have a terrible fear of being nurtured because they know it's going to make them grow, and that it involves trusting somebody else or trusting the universe. And they're scared that if they grow too much and they become too visible, that they're going to be seen and then destroyed, because they think everything's a war. And so like they think that other people are seeing them as competitors because they see everyone else as a competitor. Okay. So Scorpio is associated with genetic mutations and psychological diseases. And this is due to how Scorpios have a habit of repressing and burying their true emotions. And they bury them into the darkest corner of their mind. They don't want to see it. They don't want to feel it. They don't want to feel vulnerable. They don't want to feel like they're exposed or that someone else sees them. This sign is about power. And a lot of times people seek power over other people by hiding their vulnerabilities and making sure that they point out and poke at the vulnerabilities of others, so that it seems like they're all powerful and that they can't have what's done to them. They do to others what they are terrified of being done to them. So with all this emotional repression and projection, most diseases in general, I think like 85% of all diseases are due to repressed emotions that get lodged into the body and unhealed trauma. And all this trauma, we're refusing to acknowledge and embrace it. So Scorpios and 8th house people actually manifest crazy diseases very rapidly, and they become diseases in other people's lives, and they become magnets for other people's diseases to get magnetized and stuck onto them. Because remember, the 8th house is where we get stuck. And we get stuck due to fear, shame, and because we believe that something has more power over us than it really does. I'm going to get into the animals and creatures that are associated with Scorpio in a minute. But one of the animals that I think is associated with Scorpio is the snake, like venomous snakes. A lot of snakes, in order to paralyze their prey, they inject them with venom. And this happens to Scorpios as well. They're not exempt from it. So Scorpios who are in denial about their own vulnerability, since you are not, this is like your blind spot, and you don't have any like self-defense in this area because you're pretending that it's not even real, other people notice it, and other people will send their toxicity to you energetically, and you'll become like this paralyzed victim and just kind of rot away. And all of this traces back to the fact that you're not acknowledging shit that you feel is weak about you. So keep in mind that Scorpio is originally coming from the 8th house, which is about other people's issues and secrets. And, okay, so I honestly think of the 8th house as like a toilet and a sewage system. Like, it's not pretty. This is why Venus hates being in the 8th house. If you have unprocessed and stubborn shit in you, in your sewage system, then it's not just going to sit there and not do anything. I wish these people would get in their fucking car and leave. I swear, I feel like they can hear me. You know, they can hear me. I don't give a fuck. Energy is always in motion, even when it appears to be still. So, back to the sewage system shit. Francis. Also, remember that Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, which is a planet of sudden transformations that sting you. They sting you, and they sting you into a state of shocking helplessness to the point where you have to submit to its will, and you have to make changes, and you have to let other people intervene and make changes for you. Scorpio is a sign of painful maneuvers. I think it's like trying to solve massive issues in very short periods of time, or trying to compress large amounts of energy through, I'm trying to find a fancy word to describe like the process of shitting. Anyway, Scorpio energy can be dormant for a while, and then it can explode into I can't take this seriously now. Hold on. Okay, I'm not gonna laugh. Scorpio energy can be dormant for a while, and then it can explode into sudden movement and disaster. Okay, this isn't funny, because now I'm not talking about shit. It can explode into sudden movement and disaster like the rapid onset of cancer. So if you want to know how this even starts, then you have to remember that the moon is in detriment in Scorpio, aka its hands are tied. Scorpio in general, but especially Scorpio moons, are always at risk for developing genetic diseases and psychological issues if they don't learn how to clean themselves out and emotionally transform and accept growth and not just be content with rotting and destroying themselves, so that they don't appear so that they don't look like flailing babies who are just exposed and ripe for attack. Scorpio emotions are blunted. They're primal. They're in fight or flight mode. They have revved up nervous systems. Because actually, remember that the planet Uranus controls the magnetic waves of the universe. And on a human level, it translates down into the actual nervous system, like the electrical pulses of the body and the way that our cells and neurons communicate with each other. And so with Uranus being exalted in Scorpio, Scorpios usually do have revved up nervous systems. Like they have very sensitive energy fields. They sense things coming before they happen. Like Scorpios are always 10 steps ahead subconsciously, even when they don't think they are. They predict things, and they have to be careful with this because Scorpio being the opposite sign of Taurus and Taurus ruling the throat chakra, it actually automatically connects Scorpio to the throat, and Scorpios can speak things into existence, terrible shit that doesn't have to happen, but Scorpios can fall into paranoia and start thinking like, oh yeah, my house is going to get lit on fire. Yeah, it's going to happen. And then you speak it to the universe, and then it does happen. And then Scorpios kind of if they confirm their own worst paranoias due to the fact that they're manifesting it, not knowing that they're doing it, then Scorpios can get deeply entrenched in paranoia and mistake it for intuition when they're actually creating it. All right, so Scorpios do not naturally have patience or emotional insight, and they always think that people are out to get them and that people are trying to steal from them or annihilate them. So Scorpios are actually going to beat you to the punch, and they're going to fuck you up first, and they're going to drain you first like a vampire. And their justification for doing horrible shit to people is that they're so paranoid that they thought that you were going to do it to them first, and they're going to try to convince you that you are evil and that you are going to harm them. So that's how they can justify it in their minds that that's acceptable to do to you. Scorpio is a sign of dehumanization. Scorpios can honestly live their entire lives in this caveman level of emotional functioning, like they're under a trance. And so honestly, Scorpios live like this until one, they either get killed because they can't transmute their own emotions and they manifest completely fatal disasters onto themselves. Or number two, they live like this until the universe has mercy on them and just wields in an experience or a relationship for them that stings the fuck out of them and forces them to wake up and make rapid emotional changes. Scorpio is a fixed sign. And so, but this doesn't mean that they're stable or built in a way where they can make slow and steady progress. That's the opposite sign of Taurus. Taurus is the slow and steady sign. Scorpios are usually highly repressed and compressed, like squeezed in on itself. All this volatile power it doesn't look very big. It's like a scorpion. It's tiny, but it's poisonous and fatal if you try to fuck with it. So Scorpios are so compressed that they're usually in total denial of what they need to do for a very long time until they're forced to make changes and evolve. Otherwise, they're going to get too comfortable, and they're automatically going to start thinking like, all right, this situation is stable and predictable, so let me seek to gain power over this person or this situation, and I can use them like a slave since I can. And remember that Mars is at home in Scorpio, and it's always thinking about getting the upper hand and winning. So they're always thinking about what they can do, what they can get away with in secrecy. Mars is always looking at things from a competition, like a competition point of view, like I win, you lose. And it gets comfortable doing this. And Scorpios honestly take advantage of anyone who is being stable and predictable in their lives. They see it as weakness, and they see it as someone who needs to get a reality check and get destroyed so that they can learn to live in shame and secrecy like they do. So again, I'm going to get into a deeper description of Venus and Scorpio. Venus falls in Scorpio, and Scorpios usually do attract miserable and abusive relationships to them because they're thinking in this way regarding how they relate to other people. Scorpios hate their own femininity and they hate their vulnerability because it's usually been used against them in the past. So they despise it and they see it in others, and it makes them, they see themselves in others because others are exposing their vulnerability and they hate it. So they secretly plot on how to use it against them, even when they're playing nice to your face. Scorpios see relationships as wars and chess games where they have to be strategizing on you and knowing how to destroy you at any moment. And so this is why there's never any genuine love or trust in their relationships. There may be sexual tension or respect or but love is usually lacking. And it's because of them. So even if a relationship starts out healthy, the Scorpio will subconsciously or knowingly transform it into something that's toxic so that they can find a way to create a war with the other person where they ultimately win. So Scorpio once again is coming from the 8th house, and this house is the house of breakups and divorces. So their relationships always end in breakups. Every single one of them. Even if you think that you're in some kind of death do you part relationship, death is the transforming variable that breaks you and the partner apart. That's why a lot of Scorpios usually are ride or dies. They usually do think about things in a till the death kind of way, because they know subconsciously that death is the ultimate release, the ultimate breakup. And Scorpios know that breakups are inevitable anyway, so they usually subconsciously seek to merge with the other person way too soon, have sex way too soon. And sex is just physical. It's mental, it's spiritual, it's emotional. They try to use the other person as a toilet or a dumping ground. And they don't really care about respect anymore because they're trying to dehumanize you and disrespect you so that they can break you down in their mind so that they feel justified to one day treat you in a fucked up way. So they want to become one entity with you and absorb all that they can get out of you while they're giving you some regurgitated, disingenuous relationship bullshit in return. So yeah, the other person thinks that this is a relationship and they think it's deeper than it is, because Scorpios have a way of taking outdated, dumbass, romantic bullshit, sexual shit that's been done over and over again, and presenting it in a way that makes it seem like it's exciting and fresh and authentic, because Uranus is exalted in Scorpio. So they always do have this kind of magnetic, edgy, kind of dangerous vibe to them, even if it's not really that way. So the other person in the relationship usually thinks that it's deeper than it is, or that it's safe when it isn't. And because the Scorpio ultimately just wants to rob you of your energy and transform you into a version of yourself that's so miserable that you can't chase after them, when they're done siphoning your energy from you, I don't even know how I'm going to finish that sentence. I don't care. Scorpios are notorious for being energy vampires, and this is a water sign too. So they're famous for pretending to be emotional and sensitive. So you always feel like you have to coddle them and walk on eggshells around them, when in reality their energy defenses are actually very strong. That's why they even feel comfortable pretending to be vulnerable and shit with you in the first place. If you have heightened intuition, you can tell it's fake, but some people don't. Cancers do this too. Pisces is kind of different in the sense that they want you to think they're spaced out and totally helpless. So they want you to think that you can victimize them or they're already victimized in life, and then they'll actually summon complete chaos over your life to the point where they drive you to psychosis and being totally disconnected from this reality. Like a Pisces will totally misunderstand you, and they do this on purpose, and they want you to think that they're misunderstood too, so that you're always trying to prove yourself to them, and you're always trying to prove that you're a good person by conforming to their ideal version of you. It's like you're an actor in a movie to them. Because Pisces doesn't want to be seen either. None of the water signs want to be seen, now that I think about it. Anyway, Scorpio, on the other hand, will want you to prove to them that you're not their enemy. And they will put you through tons of tests. Because in reality, they know that they are actually seeing you as an enemy. So they want to flip the script on you and act like you are the demon. And you need to prove yourself to them and that you're here to help them. And they want you to open up and give them all your resources and emotional fuel. And they want you to think that it's your idea, since you feel like you need to prove to them that you're good. They prey on people who feel like they're bad and feel like being bad is like actually a bad thing. They prey on people who have extreme views of righteousness and evilness. Because remember, Libra is the sign that comes before Scorpio, and Libra is a sign that deals with morality systems, legalities, things being right or wrong, extreme black and white judgments of character. And so this goes into the Scorpio constellation as well. The Libra constellation, Scorpio, that's the 12th house of Scorpio. So it's always in their subconscious. Scorpios know how to play people who are too invested into this Libra 7th house kind of stuff, where they want to be good. They want to be right. They want to, like, Libra is the sword. Libra is a sword, is archetyped by the sword of truth, the scales, justice. Scorpio is a sign that comes after, what happens after justice, what happens when you've been in situations where justice wasn't served to you, and you've been demonized. So Scorpios actually kind of hate people who are self-righteous. And they're more concerned about getting what they can out of you. So they're gonna prey on people who have like high senses of morality, and they want your shit from you. So they're gonna find any way that they can to get it out of you, especially by shaming you, indirectly, of course. Now, all this stuff, this is the lower vibration of Scorpio, which is the Scorpion. And there's 3 octaves to Scorpio, and it goes in this order: the Scorpion, the Eagle, and the Phoenix. The Scorpion is the primal, mindless one who just stings and poisons people before they can get stung themselves. The Eagle is detached, and you transform into the Eagle when you learn detachment and how to detach from fear so that you can see past your own cyclic paranoia. So the Eagle is detached, and that's the Scorpio who has totally overcome its paranoia, and now it has a zoomed out, overseeing perspective. It knows that it has the capacity to be a predator, so it only preys on those who have taken on the role of prey. This Scorpio is the one who will eat you alive and kill you, and it's not due to fear. It's because you have demonstrated to them that you're its dinner, and this is an eat or be eaten world. And they know that you're just going to reincarnate back into this life afterwards. So they're, in a strange way, they're kind of trying to prepare you for your own spiritual evolution by killing you. This Scorpio is just as desperate to survive, just like the Scorpion, but it's more self-aware and intelligent. The highest octave of Scorpio is the Phoenix, and this Scorpio has totally detached from this physical world. It doesn't even care about survival anymore. This Scorpio lives a life where they're no longer in self-defense mode, and they have totally surrendered. And they know that they're going to be reborn over and over again anyway, so they don't cling on to anything. They don't even cling on to themselves. They let themselves get killed and burnt into ashes, and they do this so that they can be reborn and fly higher than before. These kind of Scorpios grow in life through throwing themselves into the fire, through throwing themselves into crisis, and letting themselves be devoured and ruined, because they know on a higher perspective they are one with the universe. They don't seek to merge with other people anymore. They seek to merge with the source. So they know that they're always going to be good, even though they go through all these painful deaths and rebirths. They don't fear pain. These Scorpios have released fear entirely, which is very rare. The Scorpio soul is in a state of constant evolution and transformation anyway. And some Scorpios know on a soul level that they're totally locked into this path of spiritual evolution. So they actually purposely, but subconsciously a lot of the times, Scorpios manifest psychological issues and cancers and genetic mutations that seemingly ruin their lives, or they manifest their own premature death so that they can be reborn into a more evolved physical body next time. Scorpios automatically understand the concept of reincarnation and shedding their skin like a snake once it's been outgrown. So, with all this being said, I'm sick of Scorpios. Like, for real, you can get you. I can't. I don't want to do it anymore. You guys can go fight with your own ass cheeks. Like, no one gives a fuck about having a war with you. You think that you're ugly, and that's the main issue. And the issue is the issue that you have with your own face. So you're projecting it out onto other people and thinking they have an issue with you, or that they think they're better than you because you think that they're better than you. Like, I have Chiron and Scorpio. I'm fucking sick of this. I can't. So, yeah, on my end, I can find other ways to become self-aware. Like, I don't need to keep attracting you demons to me. Like, I'm so fucking sick of it. Like, I can point these issues out to myself, or God can point it out to me, or like I can listen to a synchronistic message. I do not need any more of this shit. Like, I'm not doing it anymore.